SABC, host broadcaster of the G20 South Africa 2025.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Bringing you rolling coverage for the G20 Leaders Summit. We promised you that we would go back to Nasrec, and that, of course, is where SABC News United States correspondent Sherwin Bryce is at the moment, and he's been giving us a nice tour. Calvin, my only concern is the coffee machine on? Because that is the one thing that gets a person through these long days and nights, which is going to be the case for this coming weekend ahead of us. Talk to us about what you're seeing there at the Nasrec Media Hall, because that's exactly where you're stationed.
I'll tell you, Leanne, we still don't have any caffeine. There's still no food activity happening here, so there are a few starry-eyed journalists, I can tell you, and media workers that are proliferating this venue, this cavernous venue that will be a hive of activity this weekend as the media contingents that accompany the official delegations and those that just want to cover the G20 populate this room. There are couches here, there's a cafeteria here, there are various radio booths, so there'll be live broadcasts from live studios, television studios. So this will certainly gear up to be a hive of activity. Let's give you a little bit of breaking news. I just got off the phone with Vincent Magwenya, the presidential spokesperson here in South Africa, and I was asking him about his overnight tweet in terms of saying that they will not be handing over to a charge d'affaires. And I asked him if this was a protocol issue, Leanne. He said partly a protocol issue. This is a leaders summit. One leader generally hands over to another leader. No charge d'affaires will be, it's just not protocol for that level of a diplomat to meet with a head of state. No head of state meets a charge d'affaires, he told me, and of course then confirming that the president will certainly not be handing over to the head of the U.S. mission here. Another little bit of information that I've just received from a source within the Department of International Relations in terms of the outcome declaration that is much talked about, right, and what that will look like and who will support it and who not. I can tell you the Sherpas are still negotiating that outcome document. We were hoping that they would have some sort of finality earlier this week. That has not happened. We were told that they negotiated, Leanne, throughout the night. They have not slept. And of course, if they do not conclude those negotiations, it will be up to the leaders to ratify that agreement come this weekend. So lots of open-ended stuff in terms of where we go in terms of that declaration, but in terms of the substance, right, we're talking about things like disaster risk reduction. We're going to talk about debt distress, things like concessional financing from development banks in terms of assisting poorer countries to meet the sustainable development goals, or certainly the development themes and thematic issues that South Africa has presented yet, things like climate justice, where is the money going to come from, innovation, artificial intelligence. These are the issues that those Sherpas are now grappling with and that the leaders must endorse or not endorse. And so it remains to be seen what that outcome document looks like and what the pathway forward then looks like in terms of implementation. And of course, central to that will be where the money comes from. When we talk about the money, we are talking about a $4.3 trillion annual gap in terms of SDG implementation that is lacking. So can they come up with a pathway towards closing that gap? I don't imagine that they will close a $4.3 trillion gap annually at this conference, but maybe we can get halfway there. So lots to talk about in the days ahead, including the Secretary General, who will be joining us here at the Media Center at around 5 p.m. Central African time today. And right after that, he'll walk over to our SABC studio right to my left over there and sit down with us for an exclusive conversation about this summit, the Sustainable Development Goals. We'll ask him about the United States' absence, the diplomatic spat between South Africa. So we certainly look forward to welcoming the 9th Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, to Nasrec and Johannesburg and South Africa a little later today. Back to you, Leanne.
Sherwin, thanks so much. Looking forward to joining you tomorrow. So do remember that we'll be bringing you basically a relocation happening, that we're all going to be there as a force as SABC News broadcasts from the G20 Leaders Summit, starting at 5:30 tomorrow morning for full rolling comprehensive coverage. But